There will be a trial. He will be found guilty. He will be sentenced to 25 years in prison. But at that point, one would hope that some kind of exchange could come about.
We're 50 days in, Emma. How much do you know about what's going on with him? How much information do you have about how he's doing, the conditions he's in? How much information do you get?
We don't have a huge amount of information. Really, the only lifeline into him that we have, or the only line that we have into him, is via the Russian lawyers. And they do get to see him fairly regularly, probably once every 2 weeks, and they get to spend time with him. But they are the only real contact we have with him, because he had one consular visit from the US ambassador, but after that, all requests for consular access were denied. We don't know why, but we think it was in retaliation for the fact that a handful of Russian journalists weren't allowed in to the US to cover the United Nations. But it's unusual, and it's not good practice, obviously, for him not to be getting consular access. And we have a permanent request in for that.
And do you have a sense of how well he's doing? I mean, what do you know about his personal well-being?
We think he's fine. We think he's physically okay. From what the lawyers tell us, he's doing all right. I mean, the last time we saw him was when he was in court for his hearing in court, which was 2 or 3 weeks ago now. And he looked physically well. He was pacing up and down his cage in the courtroom. So we think he's all right. We're wary what details we do have about him. We have to be very careful about what we say, because we don't want any of the small privileges he has got to be taken away from him. So it's all very sort of, cagey at the moment.
So do you have to be cagey even talking to me now, Emma, that you think I don't want to say anything that might make a situation for him vastly worse?
Yeah. The Russian lawyers are very nervous. They're very nervous about what details we give away. They don't want privileges such as being able to write letters to be taken away from him. So we are very careful. But look, what do we know? We know he's still in Lefortovo prison. We know he's not in solitary confinement. He's physically well.
Do you feel impotent, Emma? It strikes me that you're part of a very powerful-ish media organisation, certainly based in a very powerful country in the world, America, and yet you can make requests. We can all bang the drum about how outrageous this is, but presumably it's in the hands of people upon whom there is very little influence that can be brought to bear.
You're not wrong. I mean, what I can say is it's easy to. There are moments when it's easy to feel impotent, but the US government is truly engaged at every level on this. It's very, very much top of their minds. It's not an issue that they're neglecting. I think it's an issue that they would very much like to go away. So they're bringing it up as often as they can. They are genuinely engaged at every level. Having said that, the legal process is unbelievably slow. That's not surprising, but it's also very frustrating. The deadline for his next hearing in court is the end of the month. We're expecting at that hearing for them to extend the deadline for his detention. We're hoping maybe something else will come out of that. But the difficult thing is it's grindingly slow, the process. On the more positive side, we do know that the government is working every angle it can to see what kind of breakthrough it can bring about.
Because there is a worst case scenario here that he gets sentenced to a long period in prison in Russia.
Yes, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is what the outcome is. I mean, in the sort of likely scenarios that are put forward, or if we look at what's happened in the past, there will be a trial. He will be found guilty. He will be sentenced to 25 years in prison. But at that point, one would hope that some kind of exchange could come about. I have no inside knowledge here. This is just what has tended to happen in the past. It's the pattern that's played out before, and it's a possible scenario this time around as well.
And this is, to anyone who cares about journalism, an issue, isn't it, of free speech? He was there. You can tell us this. I'm sure he was there to do journalism, to report factually on things that were going on in Russia. We've been, at Times Radio, it's been striking how hard it is to get people in Russia to carry on talking to us. We've noticed in the last 15 months, you've had some reporters in Russia, then we've had anonymous contributors from Russia, then we've had no one from Russia. This gradual tightening of the news that can come out of the country. But what he was doing was reporting.
Yeah, and not only was he doing what reporters do, he was getting on with his job. He was explaining the situation in Russia to a wider audience. He was doing it as a fully accredited journalist. He had accreditation from the Russian Foreign Ministry. Now, if what the Russians were hoping to do in arresting Evan was to cast some sort of chill across newsrooms, well, you could say they've succeeded. I think, a lot of outlets are very, very, even, I mean, it was always a difficult place to report from Russia, but it's even more difficult now, and a lot of people have withdrawn. And obviously, there's the wider issue of press freedom. I think all around the globe now, newsrooms are looking at their reporters' networks and thinking about their safety. And I think, it's fair to say that we have taken the idea of a free press, of being able to report from around the world. We've become somewhat complacent about it. I think this is a reminder that it's not something we take lightly, or that we can accept lightly.
And how do you feel personally? I mean, you've not been long in the job. You go out there to start a new job, and I know what it's like. Must be like for you. You feel responsible for journalists when you send them out to places. I mean, that's one of the things an editor does. News tends to happen by definition in unpleasant places, in places that are difficult. And one of the things you have to do as an editor is say, well, we could all sit in our office and write press releases, or we could send people to terrible places. But if you do the latter, which you should do, that comes with a horrible responsibility. Have we done everything we can to protect this person? Is it right to put your head in the mouth of the lion? That must be on your mind quite a lot.
Yeah, all the time. And, I mean, it goes without saying that the safety of our journalists is our priority. And certainly the Wall Street Journal has got very robust systems in place. We assess very carefully every single reporting assignment that takes place in dangerous areas, and it's a difficult thing to calculate. I mean, what I can say is we are fully committed to continue to report from the ground, from difficult places. We are not going to step away from that. We're not going to step back. But equally, safety comes first. And at the moment, there are a lot of very hostile environments that our journalists are operating in, and I wouldn't be human if I didn't say what happened to Evan hasn't made that all seem much more acute and make us all sleep a bit more, be more anxious about what our journalists are doing.
But to be journalists, you've got to do it. It's that's a horrible balance. I've texted you this before, Emma, but we do this little thing on our program. We do the date. Obviously every day, and we every day we say, and it's 50 days as it is today, 50 days since Evan has been held illegally by Russia, and I really hope we don't have to say that forever or for 100 days, and I just hope that at some point you bring him home. And
I hope not too, but Stig, I love that you do that. One of the issues for us is, how do you keep a story like Evan front of mind? We need people to remember his situation. We need to keep him in the news. So everything helps. And the fact that you do that every day is really, it's wonderful. It's useful for the wider story, but it's also very uplifting for people here. And one of the things that has blown me away since Evan got arrested was the level of support we've had from other newsrooms around the world. It's been really an amazing outpouring of support, and it has definitely helped to keep morale up here.
Well, listen, bless you, Emma, and good luck with all. And I hope that at some point you can come back on and say, "Here's the good news about Evan."
Oh, I really hope so too. And I look forward to that day, Stig. I'll be here.
That's great to hear. Emma, thank you so much.
Thank you.